Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Collegian Football Podcast. We're here with Alexis Yoder. I'm Justin Morganstein, as always. Alexis, not the biggest game this week, but certainly plenty of storylines, to say the least, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I want to start here with injuries. This is the most important 2 weeks, I would say, for this football team, especially with how the significance of the injuries that they suffered against Iowa in that loss. Let's start with Sean Clifford. He was practicing on Wednesday, and we saw him. James Franklin said that this was not the first time he was out on the practice field and throwing around with the other quarterbacks. This is a good sign, Justin?
Yeah, going into practice yesterday, for their normal Wednesday practice they make available to media. We weren't really sure what to expect, going in, if Sean was going to be suited up or if he was going to be on the sideline or not even there at all. He wasn't there at all the week before, but we get there and we go see the quarterbacks, and number 14 was in that group, and he was, doing his normal drills with everybody. He looked relatively healthy. I mean, he was throwing the ball with some good force, some good zip like he normally does. And the only thing I guess I really noticed that was a little different than usual is he was in a long sleeve shirt, and maybe a lot of people speculate that the ribs could be the issue, and maybe that's just something to cover up that flak jacket that he's maybe going to be wearing, but we still don't know about his status for this weekend, so there's still a lot of questions in the air.
Yeah, especially with that quarterback position. We could see Taquan Roberson make his first start for Penn State against Illinois. I think that this could be a good move for a couple different reasons. Number one, if Sean Clifford isn't at 100% right now, why would you throw him out here against a team that obviously is near the bottom, if not at the complete bottom of the Big Ten? You don't want to chance him suffering another injury or making it worse than it already is if it isn't back to 100%. So that's one reason. Also, Taquan clearly needs some more reps again in real-time action. Practice is one thing, but nothing compares to the experience that you get playing against a Big Ten opponent, no matter who it is. So this could serve him well, especially, further down the line in the season should an injury like this happen again, or next year when he's competing for a starting spot in a more open field.
Yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Illinois is also a pretty bad team. So it certainly helps that, they have the luxury of having the bye week and then, one of the lesser teams in the Big Ten before you have Ohio State. So kind of gives you, like you said, a chance to evaluate what Taquan can do. And at the same time, like you said, next year, Sean Clifford's a senior. Granted, he has another year of eligibility, but nobody knows his plans, if he's going to be going to the NFL or not. So, having Taquan start in a game like this is really beneficial to their future. And again, if someone gets injured, you want him to be able to have all those reps this week and then be able to maybe get some game reps in against Illinois while getting Sean Clifford healthy for Ohio State in the process. So if Sean is 100% healthy, James Franklin has always said, if Sean is healthy, he's my starter. He's my guy. But at the end of the day, it might be looking out for his best interest to have Taquan start this weekend, too, before Ohio State in a couple weeks.
I think even though if Sean does start this game, it's pretty much a guarantee that we're going to see Taquan get into this game at some point. Should Penn State get a lead when they get a huge lead in the second half, he'll get those reps either way. But it's just going to be interesting to see who is up on the video board as the starter at quarterback.
That should be fun.
Yes. Let's talk about the OC too. Mike Yurcich, he was very animated this week in practice, and Justin just wrote an excellent feature on Mike Yurcich. You want to talk about what you saw from him this week and really up to this point in the season?
Yeah, sure. And I don't take compliments well, but thank you for calling it excellent. I think that it was awesome when we were able to see practice yesterday. Sean and Yurcich had a funny little moment. It was, like we said, he's so hands-on, and he's always, participating in the drills, whether he's playing quarterback, whether he's playing safety. Yesterday, he's playing safety in the end zone while his quarterbacks are, going through some red zone drills, and he literally almost intercepted a ball that Clifford threw, and then Clifford, gives him a little, shove, and then he's like, I'm Mike Yurcich, that's who the F I am. And then, it was so funny. But he has just been so, uniquely great for this team so far. Because I feel like a presence like his with, an offense that has been able to recover after last year, he doesn't mess around. And I talked to Mason Rudolph, the Steelers quarterback, and I put a bunch of quotes in the article, but he said he's literally a psychopath. He's a football psychopath in the best possible way. He lives for game planning. James Franklin said he lives for plays, which is like so vague but so great. And he just genuinely loves offense. And when you have someone as passionate as him that's able to work with, just college kids and be able to guide them while giving them that motivation and giving them that, fun but, tough spirit at some points is really something that makes you clearly see why James Franklin wanted him so much. And it's paying dividends so far. There's so many things that have been cleaned up between the turnovers, just Sean making the right decisions, and he's been incredible for this team so far. And I wouldn't be shocked. We've talked about Juwan Sider maybe becoming a head coach in the future, but it wouldn't shock me if he got some opportunities in the next few years as well.
Yeah, for sure. He just really has that personality and that touch that is just so unique, and you could tell that all the offensive players are really buying in to what he brings to this program from a scheme perspective, but also personally too. You could tell that they really trust him with stuff on and off the field, and that's something that's really special, and you can tell that it's really affecting them in a positive way this year.
Something else that I talked to Mason Rudolph about, and also his co-offensive coordinator from Texas, Herb Hand, is now at UCF. They both talked about how Mike is always the guy to tailor his offense to his personnel. And it always should be that way, never the other way around either. And it's when you do that and you're able to adjust and, play to your different quarterbacks' abilities, it just makes them want to be able to succeed so much more. And it makes them comfortable. And you see, we have a scenario this weekend where we don't know what quarterback's going to start. It could be Sean, it could be Taekwon, and they said they've been splitting the reps.
For all we know, it could be Christian Veilleux out there on the field to start this game.
Well, James said yesterday that obviously we are pretty confident he's not going to start, but they said they've been splitting the reps in thirds, so take that for what it's worth. But just allowing your quarterbacks to play in a system that they're comfortable with rather than having them try to fit the scheme is important on all levels of football, and it's clearly part of a reason why I think Kirk Ciarrocca last year, did not succeed at Penn State. He came in with a system, a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of heavy package, not a lot of spread. It made it tough for Sean because that's not what he does. His game is conducive to the spread offense that they're running, the air raid style offense. And having him being able to get the ball out of his hands quickly, we've said they've thrown it behind the line of scrimmage more than they ever have this year, getting the ball out of his hands extremely fast. It just tailors to his game so much more. And you're seeing why, and he's been really successful with it.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be an injury for whatever it is, whatever the situation is. We'll see how it plays out on Saturday against Illinois, whether Taekwon gets a start or you'll see Sean Clifford back in there for the first time since Iowa. Moving to another injury now. First drive of the game against Iowa, P.J. Mustipher goes down and did not return. And he has been really, I would think, one of the most, if not the most vocal leader on this team. And all the players, Franklin, Brent Pratt, everybody that we've spoken to about P.J. Mustipher, from not only an on-the-field perspective, but also off the field, he's a huge loss for this team. And, obviously they're going to miss him and his production, his leadership, but they also have so many qualified candidates to take his spot on the inside. And it's going to be interesting to see who gets the majority of the reps there against Illinois. Like we said, this is a good game for them to really try things out and see who works best in that position before they get into those tougher competitions at Ohio State, against Michigan, and for all we know, Michigan State. So it's just going to be interesting to see what they do against Illinois and who gets the most reps. Yeah,
like you said, it's a really good game for them to be able to test things out. And I would expect a lot of Devon Lee's, Kazai Izzard, like we saw in the second half against Iowa. But something I've always been a fan of, and I think Penn State's done it a little bit before, is, for big situations and high leverage downs, you could easily move a Nick Tarburton who has some really good size inside on the line. Like we saw it, I mean, the NFL is clearly much different, but we saw it in the Super Bowl when the Eagles beat the Patriots and Brandon Graham moved inside to strip sack Tom Brady. And we saw it before when the Giants did the same thing when they beat the Patriots. So it's something that, you know, it can't be a consistent thing, you know, in the first quarter, second quarter. But for big, high leverage downs, I could see them trying to make that move with different stunts and different packages on defense to be able to, you know, surprise their lines a little bit and actually use the P.J. Mustipher injury almost to their advantage by just throwing some different looks at them in that case.
Yeah, and they really did play around against Villanova, moving Nick Tarburton inside and then having Jesse Lucetta come up and having those two on the same side, which is a really interesting look. They got a lot of pressure in the backfield of Villanova off of that look. So if we could see that a lot more, I think that's going to be really something that, you know, Brent Pry's really going to try and lean on to throw a different look out there against some of these higher level teams. But like you said, Keziah Izzard, Devon Ellis, like they got the majority of the reps, and even Ellis got hurt in Iowa for a period of time. He did return though, but then we saw a lot more Keziah Izzard. James Franklin talked about Jordan Vandenberg, that he's really been improving, and they've been running him at that spot. So there's a possibility we could see more of him against Illinois. But this injury, the amount of weight that P.J. Mustipher had on this team, like you really just can't describe it. It really is irreplaceable. But I think that they'll be able to get by just fine for the rest of the season without him, just because of how much depth they have at that position.
Yeah, and from a leadership standpoint, it stinks. Like it's just like PJ and Jaquan are their two leaders on that defense, and I think that someone else is going to have to step up and do that as well. We've seen Jesse Lucetta do it. We've seen Ellis Brooks, you know, become much more vocal this year, and I think that if they're able to, you know, use the PJ injury and kind of motivate them going forward just from, you know, we know PJ's out, but we're all going to be able to step up as leaders in his absence. You know, you can always use that to motivate your team. And, you know, you brought up Jesse Lucetta. We've seen him on the outside. And
where haven't we seen him
Yeah,
this
maybe
season?
We'll see him lined up next to Jaquan at safety. And who knows? But, no, it's...
Get another interception?
Yes, that would be... I mean, hey, he already had a one-hander. But
It's true.
In all seriousness, I think that if Penn State this weekend is able to try a bunch of different things against Illinois and kind of throw a bunch of darts on the wall and see what sticks, like that would be a really good plan, just considering, you know, how sturdy they are in all other aspects of the defense right now.
Yeah, for sure. Let's transition to looking at Illinois specifically. A player that really every single person this week that we got the chance to speak to in terms of players to watch, keep an eye on for Illinois, I can't think of one person that hasn't mentioned Chase Brown, a sophomore running back. He really has been if there is a bright spot to this offense, he has been the bright spot to this offense, and I think you can expect the majority of Illinois' offense to rely heavily on the run game.
Yeah, I mean, he's got like half their scrimmage yards this year. I mean, it's pretty much a one-man show back there. But I also want to – their running game – we'll get to their passing game in a second. But their running game is far better than their passing game. They have Brown. They have also a freshman who actually James mentioned yesterday, Josh McCray, who's done a nice job for them this year. But getting that passing game, it is abysmal at best. It is not good. They started the year with Brandon Peters starting, who was the 6-year senior, had a ton of experience. We saw him against Penn State last year in that Champions Week game. Didn't look great. But yeah, by the way, that Champions Week, was the worst name for that of all time. Two terrible teams. Yeah. But anyway, he got hurt in game one. I think it was an AC joint shoulder problem. And then Arthur Sikowski, who was at Rutgers previously, we saw him against Penn State. He took over, put up some okay numbers, I guess, but they didn't win or didn't conduce to winning. And if you look at all their numbers combined, we got passing yards per game, 53.7, last in the Big Ten, 5.1 yards per completion, last in the Big Ten, 49.8% completion, last in the Big Ten.
I think that Penn State's defense will be just all right in this one.
Yeah, it's not good, Alexis.
Yeah.
It's not good. But yeah, they don't even have, I think, anyone over a receiver over 300 yards or tight end or receiver. So it's, you kind of know where they're going to try to attack you. And especially, like we just said, P.J. Musfer being out, who's one of their better run stoppers. That's got to be their game plan going in, to attack whatever depth is in the game for Penn State. But, you know, if the linebackers can contain like they've done, Brandon Smith, be ultra aggressive, Ellis Brooks, they really shouldn't have a problem with this offense. It's not very good. They just lost to Wisconsin 24-0.
Oh, boy.
And both quarterbacks played, so.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is going to be really telling of who's going to step up on that defensive line and be the run stopper, like you just said, that P.J. Musfer was. This is going to be a good game for them to work on that, see who works best, because obviously Illinois' offense, honestly, both sides of the ball leave a lot to be desired, but still, offense, defense going to have to show out in order to build some confidence, especially after that loss at Iowa. It's going to have to really show out to give themselves some confidence going into Ohio State.
Yeah, they will. And this game, it's almost a dress rehearsal. You want to just make sure that your guys on the defense who are, you know, making these adjustments after the Iowa game, and they go over that film. They did self-scouting in the bye week, like James said. That they're, you know, taking those corrections and they're applying them in the game, and that's what the idle week. By the way, they call it the idle week, not the bye week. I've been saying it wrong for like 2 weeks, and it kind of pissed me off. That's so stupid. But anyway, they say
it's a bye week.
Yeah, they said that they always self-scout during that week off, and I'm sure they did a ton of that because they have a ton to look at in that Iowa game, especially with all the personnel that got in. So just taking those changes, applying them, and you know, you're doing it against the not great football teams, so you're going to get a chance to, you know, maybe make a couple mistakes and still win the game pretty comfortably.
Yeah, still be okay. I mean, obviously, you know, this isn't, I don't think, one of those trap games that, you know, we always talked about. I mean, we talked about it when Penn State played Ball State at the beginning of the year, and they really handled that team pretty gracefully. And just don't let them hang around early. Get up on them. Don't let up. Get your guys in there and really just take control of this game early on. Figure out the QB situation and, you know, get ready for the Buckeyes, really.
Yeah. No, it's a home game too. It's the noon
homecoming.
start. Yeah, this is you can't afford to mess this one up, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. I really do think it's going to be interesting. I would love to see them play all three of these guys. That'd be pretty awesome, I would say.
Well, I mean, if they get up early and say Cliff starts, they're up like 20 at half maybe, and then they, you know, Taquan took all those reps that week, so they want to get Taquan's reps, and at fourth quarter, maybe it's worse than that. Like, I wouldn't be shocked to see Vilu maybe, but at the same time, you want to just get everybody out of there healthy. So that should be their main goal as well, obviously, to win the game.
Yeah, for sure. Can we talk about some recruiting action first a little bit? A couple of days ago, Penn State's top quarterback recruit in Drew Aller was upgraded to a 5-star recruit, making him the #1 overall quarterback in the country. This is huge for Penn State, and Franklin really credited Mike Yursich in the recruiting game because when they picked up Drew Aller and his commitment, he was nowhere near this highly ranked. I mean, he was a 3-star when he committed, if I'm not mistaken. So really seeing that talent early on has paid off for them, and you could see it. If you've watched this guy's film, he's pretty good, Justin. He's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, I'll get into, you know, them recruiting him in a sec, but he is all the physical tools. He's 6'5", 6'4", 6'5". He is, you know, as lean as they come. Just such a great quarterback body, and if you watch him, just the ball, like when it comes out of his hands, you can always tell when that quarterback's the zip on it, and they just have that, you know, fluidity in their passing motion. And Franklin, remember, he can't say Drew Aller's name because of the rule that you can't talk about recruits before they've signed. But you know, Ben Jones of StateCollege.com asked him and kind of danced around the question a little bit, and James gave like a pretty candid answer. He was like, look, we obviously will give a credit to our recruiting staff for, finding him early and seeing that he was a guy with potential, like you just said, from 3 to a 5-star. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he made sure to give a ton of credit to his high school coaches and that personnel. He said their job in developing him has been incredible over the last couple of years. And if they can continue to do that, I mean, how good can he get? He looks really, really good. Mm-hmm. Next year, when he's a true freshman, and they have potentially Sean Clifford back, they have Taquan Roberson back, and they have Drew Aller in the mix. And maybe when we talked about a transfer too, and it's the QB situation next year could get very interesting.
Yeah, but hopefully that competition will serve them well, because it's really. I feel like it's really been very predictable who's going to be the starting quarterback for Penn State for pretty much how many seasons in a row.
Yeah.
This upcoming season is going to be a little bit different. I mean, I think I'd be excited to see that for sure. Just honestly, you're guessing as to who's going to perform in camp and everything like that. And they're always I feel like they're always kind of transparent about where everybody is at this point. And obviously, they're not giving away like, oh, this guy's number 1 on the participation chart or anything. Like, since we don't do depth charts at Penn State football.
Yep,
but
nope.
That'll be certainly interesting to watch. Last thing for the day.
Yep.
Justin's keys to the game. Number 1.
Let's do it. This week, I would say first key to the game is, do we even have to say it at this point? Let's get these running backs going. Also, Noah Cain, I think it was pretty clear that, those last few weeks, especially before the bye, he was not himself. He's not 100%. He clearly, James Franklin said he got banged up a little bit. I think it was maybe the Auburn game.
Yeah.
And he said that basically he was banged up, but that he was continuing to just get better, progress. And this bye week could be the thing that, really helps him out. And if he's able to, like we keep saying, just get some positive yards on every play, churn out 4 or 5 yard gains on first down, then this offense still can open up completely. They don't have a running back that I think is at 300 yards. So Kevon Lee is their leading rusher on the year. So it's imperative to try to get these guys going. We don't know the status of Devin Ford yet, because I know he was hurt too in that Iowa game. So
as well as John Lovett.
And John Lovett, yeah, absolutely. And just being able to get them back healthy, hopefully that bye week, help them out a little bit. Getting the running game going, specifically Noah Cain, would be ideal.
Yeah, and leading into your next key, really after that week, the whole offense took responsibility for the drop off in the run game. It wasn't obviously what anybody expected it to be. This was probably the deepest room coming into this season. Everybody on the team was talking about, how good the competition was, how high the talent level is. And yes, all of that's there, but it's failing to show on game day. So just leading into your next key.
Yeah, you totally described it. The whole offense got to do better, but specifically you need the offensive line to play better than they did against Iowa. And Iowa has really, really aggressive O-line and D-line, which obviously made it a little difficult, especially I think Eric Wilson, and I also think Caden Wallace got beat a bunch in that game, and don't get us started with the false starts again. And that's got to be cleaned up, of course, and I expect that to be. But being able to run and pass block efficiently at the same time. Like, we've seen them do very well in the passing game, and at times I think we've seen them do well in the short game and the running game, but I feel like they haven't put together that, pass rush and run D at the same time. And if they can do that, again, this defense has been as good as it gets in the country this year. And if they can put those two things together, that's about as complete as you can ask. And I just think that if the O-line can, I don't want to say, just run block better, but at the same time, being able to just do everything in the short game better, because we've talked about them passing behind the line of scrimmage. That hasn't really worked as much in the last couple of weeks. And if they can just continue to be able to pass block behind the offensive line and run block, then I think they're going to be in a good position going forward.
Yep. Greatly said there. Next, last one up for the week. I like this one. This is a good one.
Yeah, just get your rotational guys some time. We saw it against Ball State this year. We saw it against Villanova. Put this one away early. Make sure that you can test out these guys. Like we said, you're going to have to find out some things about your O-line. You're going to have to find out some things about your D-line. You're going to have to find out things about your quarterback position. So allowing them to have the chance and not be in a position where you go, okay, you have to make a pressure decision, like, all right, I got to go with this guy right now. Like, you don't want that pressure decision this weekend. That's for 2 weeks. That's for Ohio. That's for Columbus. And getting in and out of there healthy and getting your rotation guys time is going to be huge. You got to get out of this game healthy, especially after 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, for sure. And after the Villanova game, James Franklin was really critical of those rotational guys that were in. Obviously, Penn State, they only allowed 52 total yards in the first half against Villanova, and they ended up giving up 2 touchdowns to this team that they clearly had under control in the first half. So he really was hard on those rotational guys, said they didn't have the best week of practice. They need to get better depth, especially, obviously this was before they suffered those key injuries, but should something like that happen again, they're going to need other guys that are experienced, that are playing at a consistently high level. And this is one of those games where you have to really, if you're a rotational guy, someone that is really fighting for playing time, you really need to play strong in this game. Not only just to keep Illinois off the scoreboard, but just for yourself, for this team. You really need to be prepared when, as they've said, when your number's called, next man up mentality. That's really going to have to be the driving factor here against Illinois in this game. Yeah,
it's cliche, but it's so true. I mean, it's so funny. We talked about before this Iowa game how they were doing so well at the injuries. But now you lose one of your key leaders in PJ, and of course, the whole situation with Sean. And all you want to be able to do is just be able to hold it down while they're out, excuse me. But being able to not only hold it down at the same time, but being able to flourish and allow the other guys who are still the starters to not skip a beat. It's all you can ask as a head coach, and I'm sure that's just his goal for this week, and that's what he wants to see out of those guys.
For sure. We'll see who ends up in the starting quarterback spot, what players get the most time against Illinois, and who really shines in this game, because a lot of opportunities here against a lower level Big Ten opponent. That's going to wrap it up for us this week on the Collegian Football Podcast. For Justin Morganstein, I'm Alexis Yoder, and we'll see you here next week.